I'm Barry Darnall with Barry Darnall Art. Today I thought I'd talk a little bit about the basic tools that you need to get started drawing with charcoal. So, charcoal as a medium is a pretty simple, pretty basic medium, and in all actuality you don't need a whole lot of materials to get started drawing with charcoal. First and foremost, you need something to draw on, and paper that I use quite a bit is the Canson XL recycled paper. Now it says that it's a smooth paper, which it kind of is. However, a neat thing about Canson paper is that their paper has really two surfaces. On the front side of the paper it is smooth, but if you go to the back side of the paper has actually got a little bit of a texture to it that actually does really well with charcoal. The charcoal can really grab onto it, and you can move it around and you can erase it, and it stands up to a lot of hard usage as well. So this is a fairly decent paper. You want to get one that is also in a size that you're going to be comfortable working in. Okay, early on I think something like this 9x12 is probably a good size. Most people aren't going to start off doing large drawings. You can eventually get to a point where you'll be using larger papers. And you know, a nice thing about charcoal is it's really easy to cover a very large sheet of paper very quick with charcoal, whereas with graphite it's a little bit more involved. So you need a decent paper. Obviously the next thing you need is some charcoal, and charcoal comes in a lot of different forms and varieties. There are sticks of charcoal, there are vine charcoals, there are compressed charcoals, there are charcoal pencils. And these are just a few samples of some of the charcoals that are out there that a person can use. Okay, starting off, you have your most basic charcoal, and that is a vine charcoal. Okay, and vine charcoal is nothing more than a piece of stick or a piece of vine that has been charred under controlled conditions, so that throughout it has basically become a soft coal-like material. It tends to generally be very soft, although there are different hardnesses depending on the types of woods that are used. You can buy them in boxes. You might see them being sold loosely as sticks. You have different, you know, like I said, different hardnesses, different softnesses of it. So that is probably the most basic charcoal that you'll find. Another type of charcoal, which is also a charcoal made from a stick, is these nitrum or nitrum charcoal sticks. Now these are kind of nice because they are square, they're really easy to hold on to. They can be brought down to a really fine point, and they give you a lot of control working in detail, also in just doing layouts of your drawings and things like that. These are really excellent tools to use on that. Okay, the next type of charcoal that you will probably see are an actual charcoal pencil. Okay, and charcoal pencils are a type of charcoal that has been manufactured and compressed into essentially a pencil lead, if you will. But the core is a compressed charcoal inside of a wood casing. You can sharpen it like a standard pencil. It gives you the ability to draw a little bit more, what people are probably more commonly used to. It also gives you the ability to draw in a way that more people are familiar with, which is holding a pencil. But you can buy extenders so that you can use it in more like a paintbrush type fashion as well. And then another type of charcoal is what is known as compressed charcoal. Compressed charcoal is literally just that. It's this type of charcoal that's been ground down, and then through a process it's compressed into a hard stick or a block. Now this one here is kind of a round stick, but they also come in square sticks and blocks, several different varieties. Now with charcoals, with these different charcoals, there are different features to them. There are I guess different characteristics, and I guess let me open up the sketchbook here and we'll go to a page real quick, and I'll just kind of show you some of the differences in these. Okay, so if we start off with just the plain vine charcoal, okay, plain vine charcoal can lay down a nice amount of charcoal relatively quickly, okay? You can also throw it on the side, and in a pretty short period of time, you can cover a very large area of space. So that's where these are really nice, okay? You can also sharpen these down to a really, really fine point, and you can get very, very detailed lines. You can do a lot of things. You can get some variety in your lines and be very expressive. Okay, so there's a lot you can do with just a simple charcoal, vine charcoal stick. When you get into the Nitram charcoals, again, they have a lot of the same qualities here. You can lay a fair amount of charcoal down. Now these come in a variety of hardnesses. This is a B, but you've also got an H version of it, okay? And these have a different feel to them than the vine charcoal, okay? But again, with these, you have the ability to get in and do some really, really fine detail drawing. You can come in here and do a lot of cross hatching with these if that's the type of drawing that you want or need to do on something, okay? And again, these also can be laid down on their side, and you can get down a fairly good amount, although these are not quite as soft as the vine charcoals. Charcoal pencils, by contrast, they of course can give you a fairly light, fairly fine line, all the way down to a fairly dark, fairly heavy expressive line, okay? You can do a lot of your fine cross hatching with these, okay, to build up tone and texture. All right. As you work with charcoal, you'll start to get a feel for where these are used, and in later videos we'll actually do some drawings where we show how to use these different tools in different parts of a drawing, okay? Your other charcoal that you have an option for, again, is the compressed charcoal. And compressed charcoal, very much like the charcoal pencil, is capable of being brought down to a really fine point. Now you can see what a fine line that is, and this has a really, really different feel to it than any of these others. It's a very, very hard charcoal. You can get a fair amount of coverage with some of these compressed charcoals. You can lay down quite a bit in a relatively short period of time. The differences with these comes with what you can do with them after you've put them down on paper. And I'll come in here, I've got an eraser. This is another tool that you'll want. This is called a kneaded eraser, and it literally is that. I'm not sure what they're made of, but the more you work them like this, the softer they get. You can shape them into a variety of different shapes, everything from fine points down to almost a razor blade type edge for working and actually drawing with an eraser. What you'll see is when I come in here, for example, on the regular vine charcoal, and you can see I'm removing quite a bit of charcoal. In fact, getting basically right back down to the white paper if I want to, okay? I can also take that and just kind of lightly tap and pull up just a little bit of the charcoal, and I can build up gradations and tones with that, okay? Another thing with the charcoal here is using my finger, which I know they'll tell you don't do that, but if you use your finger, you can blend the regular vine charcoal very, very, very easily, okay? That will let you build up tones and values in several different ways, okay? And you'll see even where I did a heavy application of it, okay, it still is very, very, it disappears. I can literally make that disappear. And if I take the eraser and I go through the heavy application, again, I can get down to pretty much the white paper with that, just using a simple kneaded eraser, okay? When we get into the Nitram charcoals, they are also fairly easy to erase. You can see that with just a simple stroke, I can pull a lot of that right back up out of there. Now with the different hardnesses, They may get a little bit more difficult to pull up off the paper, depending on how much pressure you put down there. But they're still a very manageable charcoal. When you get into the charcoal pencil, however, you'll start to notice a difference in what can be done with the eraser. And you'll see in this case, as I take the eraser and go across it, okay, although I'm lifting some of it up, I'm not being able to get as much of it up. You'll see that there's still some pencil mark, some charcoal pencil mark that's down on the paper. And with the compressed charcoal, okay, you're probably going to see that that is an even more pronounced characteristic of it. The compressed charcoal and the charcoal pencil, which is also a type of compressed charcoal, they really lay down and they stick, and they're not as easy to pull up off the paper. Now, you can still do a lot with them. You can still move them around on the paper. You can still do blending with them. Okay, in this case I'm using my finger. So these types of charcoals, your vine charcoals, your stick charcoals like this, your charcoal pencil, and your compressed charcoal sticks, those are some of your basic tools that are available to you for working in charcoal. Okay, as I said, another tool that you'll want is the kneaded eraser. These are just great tools. These, you can use them drawing with charcoal, you can use them drawing with regular graphite pencil, you can use them drawing with colored pencil. I've used them doing color pencil drawings to lift up color, although there are some better alternatives, but they still work. Another type of eraser, probably more common that people have seen, are just the white polymer erasers. They're more similar to the old pencil erasers that people were probably used to in school. They work basically the same way. You can move around the charcoal quite a bit. You can get down to a pretty good layer of the paper. Now these may work a little bit better on the compressed than what the gum eraser, than what the kneaded eraser does, but not much. Not much. Again, the compressed and the charcoal pencil, they tend to be a little bit more permanent on paper. Okay. The next type, there is another type of charcoal that's out there, and that is what's called a compressed charcoal powder. Okay. So essentially, what it is it's taking the compressed charcoal stick like this, it's grinding it down into a really fine powder. And if you pop this open, and you want to be careful with this, you don't want to get this brought up into the air because it's coal. I mean, and you don't want to breathe that in because it's probably not good for you. But it's a really fine ground version of the compressed charcoal. And with that, you're going to want something to spread it around. You can use a brush like this, okay? And if you just barely tap in there, you don't have to get a whole lot, but you'll see that you can come in here and you can start to lay down this charcoal, and you can get a lot of coverage with this really quick, okay? And it's a really soft look that you can get with it. You can get a nice even spread of the charcoal, okay? This is awesome for using to build up backgrounds, to cover large areas that you need to cover very quickly with charcoal. So that is the compressed charcoal powder. All right. You can make your own, and maybe in another video we'll talk about how you can do that. It's really very simple. And you can also use, I mean, you'll see that it carries over, and you can carry a fair amount of that powder over to another area. You're not limited to just this big type of brush. You can use smaller brushes like this filbert to get in here and work around the charcoal. Okay. Now the nice thing about brushes is you can also use the brushes to work your vine charcoal. Okay. So these make really great blending tools for your vine charcoal as well. Okay. So you can get in there and move that around. Okay. Now the advantage to the vine charcoal over the compressed charcoal powder again comes down to what you can do with it as far as an eraser, and that is, even though I blended that and kind of pushed that around with the brush, I can still come in here and I can lift up just a very massive amount of the charcoal relatively easily. With the compressed charcoal here, if I come back in and do the same thing, okay, you can see that I can lift up quite a bit. I mean, that's a huge amount of contrast from the actual powder to what I just erased. But it still is not as near as much as what I can pull up there. Okay. Now that being said, you can do a lot of things here with these erasers and this powder to build up tone, to come back in here now, and I can lightly go over that. Okay, I can make that contrast not quite so stark, and you can create some interesting effects using the charcoal powders and erasers and brushes as blenders. Okay, kind of a neat thing though is there are a lot of things you can use to blend with. Something just like a simple Q-tip. Okay, you can come in here and you can see that I can move around the charcoal pretty easily with just a Q-tip. All right, I can take that now and I can actually use that to blend in to another area, a much lighter area like that. Okay, another tool that you might want to invest in, they're relatively inexpensive, are blending stumps. I can see this one is really pretty well used. Actually, this one's not well used at all. I just started using this one. But with the blending stumps, you can come in here and they allow you again to move the charcoal around, to push it into the paper. Okay, you can see that I can push that down. I can keep going a little harder, and I can create a that's some old charcoal that I'm actually putting on. But I can do a lot of things with the blending stumps. I can get a really smooth blend from a light to dark. These will also work really well on the compressed charcoal for pulling that charcoal out and moving that around. Okay, and with this you would want to move this around, come back in, put down another layer of the compressed charcoal, and with doing that you can build up a lot of tone and create some interesting values with that, and some really nice blends and gradations. Okay, so all in all, the things that you need, the tools that you need are some decent paper to draw on. It doesn't have to be anything really expensive. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, in a size that you're comfortable with. Some basic charcoal, either vine charcoal, the Nitram drawing sticks. I really suggest the vine charcoal. This is like one of my main tools. Charcoal pencils, which you can buy in some different gradations, hard, medium, and soft. And then the compressed charcoal sticks, which again come in hard, medium, and soft. Okay, those are your basic drawing tools that you have. You also have the option of the compressed charcoal powder that you can use. And then some other tools, obviously the kneaded eraser, probably a polymer eraser of some sort, a couple of blending stumps, possibly tools like the Q-tip, so you can move your charcoal around. And then if you're using the compressed powder, and even if you're not, a couple of brushes, fairly light, brushes for watercolor or oil, both of them will work just great. And those are really kind of the basic tools that you need for getting started with drawing. Okay, so in future videos we're going to actually spend some time showing you how to use these tools. We'll do some drawings. We'll talk about using them in different ways to create effects and to work our drawings. And we'll see what we can do to try and give you a little bit more insight on how you can use charcoal. Now the question as to, is charcoal a messy medium compared to pencil? Yes, it is. You can see by my board here, you can see by my fingers here, charcoal can get on you. Okay, charcoal can spread. You have to be very careful as you're drawing not to touch your charcoal and do that. You can leave fingerprints really easily in charcoal, but you can do that with graphite too. Graphite is also not immune from some of the problems that charcoal has. Charcoal, because it is such a more flexible medium and I guess a more movable medium on the paper, charcoal can be a little bit messier. Okay, but over time, as you learn to work in it, you get used to the fact that you're going to have some charcoal on your fingers, but you also can find ways to not create so much of a mess as you're drawing. But again, it's relatively inexpensive. I would say probably everything I've got here in terms of the various tools and things that I've got, that's probably not much more than $35 or $40 total cost for everything here that you need to start drawing in charcoal. So In future videos, we're going to talk more about the tools. We're going to actually start showing you how to use these tools. We're going to do some drawings. We'll show you different techniques. We'll show you some creative ways that you can put charcoal down and take charcoal off and create tone and value and shape. And I hope to share with you why I enjoy drawing in charcoal. I hope if you've enjoyed the video that you will click the like and subscribe buttons down below, and please leave comments about the video that you've seen. Also leave me some suggestions about things that you'd like to see me draw or other things you might like to see me talk about on my videos. So until next time, I'm Barry Darnall with Barry Darnall Art. Talk to you soon.